Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video, we're going to do an old dirt road. And the app that we're going to be using is ArtRage for Android. And if you want to follow along with traditional materials, I have a list of all the brushes and the paints and the canvas that I use. So here are the brushes that I use, and I mostly will probably use the filbert brushes and the script brush for this, and also maybe the flat brush. And if you want to use canvas board, you can use canvas board, or you can use stretched canvas, or you can even use watercolor paper, but make sure that it's a pretty thick one. These are the acrylic paint colors that I use, and I generally use Grumbacher Academy, but I also use a little bit of Liquitex. And of course, if I have some of the other brands, I will use them as well, like Daler Rowney and Holbein. So we're looking at a canvas in ArtRage for Android. And you can go ahead and select the different kinds of backgrounds. They have more rough canvases. They have more paper-like canvases. And here I'm using a pencil, and I just kind of want to draw the road out. And you need to do that because, excuse me, because roads always go to one-point perspective. And so here I'm making it just kind of a one-point perspective and curving it towards the edge of the canvas. And you want to go ahead, and I think that I will add a little bit of an old fence, just kind of an indication of it towards the end of the video. But the main focus here that I wanted to show was the road. And I'm going to do a little quick clear sky. We want to go ahead and add some blue to the sky, and you can use ultramarine blue with maybe a touch of dioxazine purple and white acrylic gesso if you're following along with traditional mediums such as acrylic or oils. And then here I want to go ahead and do my little trick that I have for doing grass, and you just go ahead and smear out some green colors, some yellow colors, dioxazine purple maybe in the corner towards the last, and we just want to smudge the colors together. And if you're doing this traditionally, you'll use a filbert brush or a bristle brush and just kind of pull up on the grass, but don't kill all the color, don't blend it all together. You want the different layers to show up so that it looks like you have darker patches of grass and maybe some flowers in there, or a different kind of grass. And so you want to go ahead and just pat on the canvas there, and then you can also do that on your ArtRage canvas as well. And then here I'm just kind of using the dry clump brush to sort of pull up the edges of the grass and go ahead and make it look kind of jagged. And then I'm using hard out smudge to kind of get the grass sort of smeared together here, and just kind of want it to look a little bit soft and just give it the indication that it's a big field of grass. And then I'm taking the normal round brush here, and I want to go ahead and add the underpainting for the road. And you can use burnt sienna and maybe add some cadmium orange, throw in some dioxazine purple. You want different variations of the color in the road because it's going to be an old dirt road. And so it's going to have different things like rocks and different kinds of dirt in it, different piled up edges of mud there. Here I'm trying to make sort of jagged edges on the road so that it looks like it's dirt clumps and mud clumps and maybe rocks even sticking out, and you just kind of want to give it an old road look, kind of. We don't want it to look paved, because this is not a paved road, nor is it a tended, well graveled road. It's kind of like an old road that we have out in our pastures on the ranch. You just kind of just drive over it, and it doesn't ever get fixed very much. And so here I'm just adding a little bit more light to the dirt clumps and the rocks that will be on the edges of these roads. And you can use cadmium orange light with a lot of white acrylic gesso, and just sort of smudge these rocks in. You want kind of a smudged look is what you want on these. And so I was trying to kind of get this look, and I didn't like the way it was going. I was trying to get it sort of smudged in, and you would do that with a paper towel or a dry brush or something like that if you're following along traditionally, or just your finger. Sometimes I just reach up with my finger on a traditional canvas and smudge it. You can also do that, of course, with some of these digital painting programs too. But here I was trying to get the right kind of blending tool and the knife set that they have, and I was trying to let it show the grain of the canvas through instead of killing all of it, and it just wasn't working out exactly the way I wanted it to look. So here I just kept working on it, and sometimes you have to do that. Just keep working on it and then decide whether you want that or not. And I decided I just didn't like it. So what I did is I deleted that whole layer. And that's what you need to do, is make sure that you have your highlights and things on different layers. Now, if you're doing this traditionally and you don't like it, just paint over it with your underpainting colors, your bottom colors, all the browns and things. Just go over those again. And you can just cover all that up just as easy. So here I wanted to work on the look of it again, and I'm trying to get it to look rough. I don't want a smooth or a blurry look. I kind of want the grain of the canvas to show through, and that's what I was trying to do here. And so I zoomed in to get it a little bit more detailed looking, and I'm also trying to make the rocks and the dirt clumps irregular looking. You don't want them to look all the same, because that would look like a herd of turtles, like Jerry Yarnell says. And you don't want a herd of turtles on your edge of your road. So I'm trying to make them look uneven and different sizes, and just kind of not round. We want it to look like there's clods of dirt that have fallen on the edge there. And so that was coming out better. I liked that much better. I wasn't quite as upset with that. So I was trying to work with that much better. And I added a few rocks like they've fallen out in the middle of the road there too. And I'm kind of smoothing out the edges, but not completely losing that jagged look. And so I wanted to add a little bit of some smudges across the road to make that look like there's different kinds of dirt in it, and the light is hitting ruts in the road differently. And so I've added some lighter orange color there and just kind of smudge it in. And if you're following along traditionally, you would use a paper towel or another brush just to smudge it in, and use cadmium orange light again with just maybe mix it in with your burnt sienna to make it lighter. If you want to darken your road, you can use some burnt umber or dioxazine purple. And so here I'm just kind of using the lighter colors again, and I'm smudging, but this time I'm not smudging all of the clump, the dirt clump or the highlights. I'm kind of smudging the back edge of the highlight, and that just kind of gives it a little bit more of a uneven look, which is what I'm after here. And so here I'm working on the edge of it and trying to get it to settle down in the grass. And what I'll do is I'll pull up more grass around it so that it won't look like it's floating on top of the grass. But you have to go ahead and get that straightened out first, and try to get the edges the way you want them. And so I'm adding a few more highlights here and smudging them out, adding a little bit of some more highlights there into the grass, and just trying to get it to look like an old dirt road. And sometimes it will even be sandy if it's dry, so you might want to even make like little piles of sand on the edge. And so I'm just kind of trying to do that and just get it all together there with the clumps. And so go ahead and make sure that this thing is saving when you do this, because sometimes it crashes and that's not good. You definitely can lose your work here, so I would definitely say to save it. And also I like to collapse the layers, but not completely. I like to leave the main layers separate, but I do like to collapse them because I'm working on a tablet instead of a large computer, and so that saves memory and makes it run faster. And so here I'm trying to settle the clumps of dirt down now into the grass. So I'm pulling little sprigs of grass up around the edges of the rocks that I've already painted, and I'm trying to get the look of grass growing in between the rocks, in between the dirt clumps. And in the dark areas you can use a lighter color, and the lighter areas you can use a darker color, and you can pull up individual strands of grass. And so that's what I'm doing here, and I'm just trying to kind of get the look of the grass growing over the rocks, because I don't want the rocks to look like they're floating in the air here. And so this is how you settle them down. You just go in between the clumps of grass, or the clumps and the rocks that you've made, and put in the grass. And then you'll also add some grass later on the side there. And here I'm adding darker clumps, and I'm using a very thin brush. And you can use your script brush if you're following along traditionally, and just go ahead and pull up some little sprigs of grass on the edge of the road as it tapers off towards the horizon. You want to definitely make sure that the clumps of grass are small, and they get bigger as they come towards you. So that shows your 1-point perspective there. So you want to make sure that your grass clumps also follow the 1-point perspective. So here I've got a few more that I've pulled up along the edge of the road, and then I'm going to work a little bit on the field part. And the field part, I'm also going to pull individual strands of grass. Now don't cover any of the background grass. Don't, kill it all. Make sure that it shows out in between the individual strands, but you do want some detail there, and that just kind of gives it a more detailed look without killing all the background. And so I want to go ahead and keep working a little bit more on the road. Now don't cover up all your road. Make sure that you leave the clumps showing, and that the road looks uneven and jagged on the edge. You don't want to cover all that up either. And so I'm just sort of going back and forth with the different colors of grass, and you can even add orange colors if you want, and you can add flowers in there if you want to, you know, distant wildflowers and things like that. You can even add little twiggy branches and trees and things like that. And here I'm sort of smudging the bottom of the grass so that it looks like it's fitting in or blending in with the field of grass, because you don't want the bottoms kind of to show like they've just stopped or something, or it's like a stick poking out. You want to kind of smudge those in and bring those down so that you get that distant field look. It's kind of what in painting they call it a lost edge, and that just means it's soft. It's a soft edge instead of a harsh line. And so that's kind of what I'm working on here. Just trying to get that, and trying to get the down in the corners even, because you want it to finish out all the way to the corners and make sure that the blades are a little bit longer and a little bit bigger, and that will help with the perspective of your painting and make it have more depth and more distance. So this is the end of my dirt road part 1, and in part 2 we're going to go ahead and add the ruts in the road, and go ahead and add the old fence and just kind of finish it out. So if you want to see that, hit the subscribe button, and thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.